What's up, guys? Welcome to podcast 9. We made it to 9, and we're almost at 10, which is super awesome. So thank you for the support. Today we have a super special interview. One, because she actually brought pizza,
Woo!
which is so sick. And we're at her awesome shop. So if you're on YouTube watching, or if you're not on YouTube watching, you should definitely go watch it because her shop is amazing, and we're stoked to be here. But yeah, so we have Tilley. And from Julian / Greensboro. Her shop's in Greensboro, but she lives in Julian, North Carolina. 1,500 people.
Small farming community just outside of town. So
and farms on the side. But yeah, cool. So tell us about yourself, Ann. You're a textile artist. So what does that mean?
Okay, well, so I love anything fibery. I love like soft tech, and I just always was really interested in crafts related to soft tech, and I was always really into sewing and fashion, and so I feel like textile artist kind of encompasses my love of sewing and making clothes, and I do a lot of knitting and knit artwork and crochet artwork, and I love anything soft.
Anything soft, any fabrics.
I'm like terrible with a hammer because I'm like hitting it all lightly and stuff because I'm used to so much finesse. Don't do I know. Hammer. I don't have any, because with sewing and with fibers, it's all about easing things in, and you never like force anything.
Right.
So whenever I have to do anything with like aggression, I always have to like build up to it because I'm like, oh right, I gotta use force now. So
that's cool though.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, were you born and raised here?
I was born in Durham.
Okay.
And so my I'm like at least like a fourth generation Durhamite. My great grandfather started a plumbing business there that my dad still runs. So all my family is still in Durham. Okay. And it is now turned into this like super hip community.
Yes, it has.
And it's cool because like my parents still live like really close to downtown. So I love spending time in Durham, but I got to a point where I needed to get out. Yeah. Like I loved it, and it was changing. It was getting so cool, and there was too many fun things to do. And so when I moved out to Julian, I never lived like rurally before. Yeah. And having that like space away from like all of this socialization really helped me focus on my art more.
That's good.
So
I think you out here, and it's not as much, I guess, not many distractions out here. You kind of can focus more on your fabrics and soft
so like stuff. I grew up like downtown Durham. Yeah. And then I lived in downtown Savannah, and then I lived in Los Angeles for a couple of years. Oh. And then when I came back, we had this opportunity to move out to Julian. We like live in a family rental house. One of Adam's aunts owns the house. And we were really scared about the idea of like living rurally because I so used to be downtown, but I'd always wanted to try it. And so now I'm like super addicted.
You love it?
I love it so much. And I mean, I'm only like 15 minutes away from Greensboro. So if I get lonely, I can come into town or, go out to eat and stuff. But having that space now is like
super bad.
It's addictive. Yeah. So
that's so cool. And I'll definitely come back to your traveling in a little bit because I'm sure those areas you went to had an impact on your stuff now. But I'm going to step back. What piqued your interest in working with textiles? Was it schooling? Was it where you kind of grew up on it, or what?
That's a good question. I was always interested in it, and my mother couldn't have been less interested. She was a child of the 70s, and her mother had made all of her clothes and was very domestic, and I think she kind of rebelled against that kind of idea of a domestic female. But for whatever reason, I just was always really interested in sewing and making. And now I've kind of understood that I just love making. Yeah. But I was drawn to that. So as a kid, I would like bug my grandma to teach me how to knit when I would go visit with her. And I had one grandma who knit and one who sewed. So when I would go visit the one who sewed, we would like make a skirt. We would make, things. And my mother, I think, was just scratching her head the whole time. But
just like, what are you doing?
But I think, maybe it was like me rebelling from my mother by like, by wanting to do this. And, she was like smart enough that she had a sewing machine, but she didn't care that I could take it in my room. And I basically like stole it in high school and just was like living in my room. And I've taught sewing lessons over the years, and one of the things I've heard is that a lot of people are really scared to break a sewing machine because their mother or their grandmother was like, don't break it, this is precious. And so I think one of the biggest treats my mom gave me was basically like gave me free range of this, and like didn't stress me out about breaking it. And like, so like I would have it would like, you know, seize up on me, and I would have to figure out how to fix it because I didn't have anyone around me that would teach me. Yeah. And so that, like, we're having to learn how the machine worked on my own. Like, I found when I went to college for fashion, that was like a super advantage, that I like knew how the machine worked because I had gotten a chance to like figure it out for my own.
So that's awesome. So it's definitely a mixture of kind of your family life and schooling as well.
Yeah, and I think I think I also just always wanted to be different from everyone else. And so that, like, you know, I was in high school in like the early 2000s, and nobody really did crafting. Like, no one really sewed. There wasn't, for me, there wasn't soft tech. You know, knitting wasn't really that popular. And so I think I might have seen it as like a rebellion, something that I could have my own. And it was just, you know, being in high school, you start getting interested in clothes. And so I would go to the thrift store and get things and like try to customize them.
Alter it out. That's freaking cool.
Yeah.
So you were like that kid at school that had the funky clothes, and people were like, what is she doing?
Some stuff was more successful than others, but I remember one time I had bought these pants for like $1, and I had tried to sew them tighter, and the whole crotch busted open during math class. Oh my God, no. So I went up to the front of the classroom and got the stapler and stapled my crotch shut, like in the middle of class. And even now, I feel like really impressed with myself that I was able to staple it shut and carry on with my day.
Oh my gosh! I'm sure they were like, "What is she doing?"
I think I like creeped up there, you know, just like click, 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 click. Yeah.
Then walk back to your desk like nothing happened.
All smug with myself, like, yeah, resolved.
Yeah.
So
I'm Aunt Tilley. What's up?
Can't fool me. Yeah.
That's awesome. So your mom was, at the same time, she was super supportive, but at the same time was very hands off, and I guess that carried on all throughout till you got to college.
Yeah.
And how was college? Like, how was doing fashion stuff there?
Well, so I can even go back before that. I like always took art classes growing up. Mm-hmm. So I was really lucky. I had an elementary school that had a really great art program. Okay. And I had this like crazy teacher who, you know, she like wore purple every day. Her name was Miss Purple. And like, she was just one of those really unique people. And I totally clung on to her, and she nurtured that interest in me. Yeah. And I'd get to like leave class and go like make art, you know? And then I went to Durham School of the Arts for middle and high school. It had just opened, and that was basically the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me. Like, Durham School of the Arts was amazing. You were required to take an art class every semester.
Yeah, of course.
And like, yeah, it was just a really cool alternative school. We didn't have football. You know, like there were so many different geeks, and the geeks, that was like, everyone was a geek. So yeah, so I had kind of taken a fine art funnel and was doing a lot of painting. And so I knew I wanted to go to art school, and I wanted to do painting. But then the sewing thing was something I did at home that I was really interested in. I got really into fashion, but I didn't really think that fashion was like, I thought it was kind of a superficial, stupid, you know, like flippy thing. And, you know, my parents are plumbers, so I totally was scared to tell them that I was really into fashion. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to art school. I'm going to do painting and illustration. Okay. But I'm going to pick an art school that has a fashion, so that in case I'm interested in this, I've got like options. So I applied to Savannah College of Art and Design down in Savannah. Good old SCAD.
So that was your time in Savannah.
In Savannah,
okay,
yeah.
Go ahead.
So I almost like day one, it was like orientation, and they're like, here's the bus for the painting department, here's the bus for the fashion department, and I just did a like 180 and just got on the fashion bus. Because I think also part of me was like, you know, art is something that I can always, you know, do in my own time, but like fashion and design is something that I don't know if I can teach myself. So I kind of, and I think maybe from a practical point of view, I was like, I think that sounds more like a job.
Yeah.
Like fashion. So I like immediately jumped on the fashion bus. And I mean, it was like, I remember getting like my, you know, you get your sheet of all the classes you have to take to graduate. And I remember being like, I get to take this class? Oh my God, I get to take this class?
I was like, fuck yeah.
This is like the coolest classes. And so, you know, I think I knew that that was like the right place for me. And I did, and I was able to take some art classes. I took some printmaking classes that were super awesome, and I would have loved in another life to have done printmaking. But
so printmaking as far as like just making screens and stuff and doing that was
or like wood block cutting, like engraving. Gotcha. I got to take an intro class, and it was just like, I don't know, it's just a fun process.
Yeah.
And
that's cool.
So yeah, and like in my other life, I would have done that.
You could totally still do it.
But you know, I mean, now, I mean, we're doing print.
That's
print
true. You're
kind
of doing it, you know, in a way.
Yeah. So.
That's awesome.
But yeah, and then I started the fashion program, and then almost immediately I had a girl tell me about this fibers department that they had. And she was like, yeah. And she like explained to me, she was like, yeah, it's like they teach you how to like design patterns for like wallpaper and fabrics or like weaving and dyeing. And she basically listed off like all of these things I loved. And I was like, where do I sign up? So I immediately looked into the fibers program and started getting a minor in that.
Okay.
And I think by the end of my 4 years, I would have preferred to have majored in fibers. But there was a lot of things in the fashion department that were really valuable. You know, like in the fibers department, they didn't really teach you how to sew.
Really?
So yeah, which I think didn't really make any sense.
That's ironic.
all the fibers students thought I was like the most amazing sewer, and I was like, no, I'm like taking classes on this. Like that's what. But anyways, so that was huge to discover the fibers department, and department was really good because they were like, okay, these are different ways that you can create a job with fibers. Yeah. So you can either be a fine art artist, with fibers, you can, you know, do production designing, you can do CAD work, you know, you can make products and sell products. And so they did a really good job of like breaking down how you take this information into the world and like create your own job.
So that's cool though, in a way.
And like the fashion department was like, oh, we're going to teach you how to be the next Marc Jacobs. And it was like, okay, well, there's only one
Marc Jacobs, you know? Exactly.
So it was kind of like, I don't feel like the fashion department was very practical in that sense, but that's what I liked about the fibers department. Was they were like,
this is super different.
Yeah.
It's more realistic, I guess.
It was much more realistic. And then of course, I graduated in 2008 and like all the, you know, the stock market crashed and everybody was like, you know, you're fucked. But it was kind of cool because at the same time it was like I always knew I wanted to define my own path career-wise. Yeah. So it was like, okay, well, don't waste your time trying to get any kind of jobs because there aren't any. Figure out how to create a job. Yeah. So that kind of worked all right for me, except for that it was very stressful. Yeah,
but I remember that. I wouldn't know enough. I was still in school then, but like it was a very stressful time for a lot of people.
Yeah, but it was literally like right as I graduated. It was like oh.
Shit. There's probably no other words. It's like, okay, awesome, great.
Dang, all right. Well, here we go.
It's like, real world.
Yeah. So do you want me to keep going on my story? Or? So I graduated and I had a boyfriend at the time that got a job out in Los Angeles.
So that's when you.
And so I said, okay, I don't know what else to do with my life.
Going to LA.
Let me do what everyone else does, and that's follow a partner, you know, follow a love interest, some ridiculous place. So I mean, for me, it was really like an excuse to go there.
To go to California.
And in hindsight, like if he hadn't had initiated that, I don't know if I would have ever had the gumption to do it. Yeah. And so I'm kind of thankful for that opportunity. And LA was a very extreme place.
I was going to ask you how was that?
It was very, very extreme. So there was like extremely cool things about it and extremely shitty things. So like, you know, especially when you have no money and like all of your money is going to your rent.
Rent. Yep, I've heard that many times.
Like, I mean, you'd have to pay to park to go anywhere. It'd be like $10. And like $10, I couldn't do $10, you know, and then wherever you were going probably costs money, you know, so like I was the scrub that brought my bicycle, and like my first job was where can I go that I can bicycle So I literally looked at the geography of where I lived.
So where can I apply?
So it was like, I was like washing dogs. I was a balloon delivery person, which actually ended up being a really cool job because I got to go to all these like fancy places.
What?
But it was also like the dirtiest and hardest job because trying to transport balloons in a city. Oh, and anytime you go outside with balloons, it's crazy, right? So imagine having like a bouquet of balloons and you're like, anyway. And you're just kind of just like, I got to go to some pretty fancy. I got to go one time into this gated community and we drove for a while. Of course, note that I'm like sitting in the ground in the back of the Sprinter van, right? Like I'm not even like have a real seat. And then we go and there's another gate in the gated community. And so we go into a second gated community. And then it's like up against this like cliff facade. And so like literally it was like the most like exclusive hidden. And then of course the woman, the help opens the door and there's like this like Jean Dubuffet sculpture just like in the front foyer. And I literally was like, I studied that in college. Like, I know what that is. Like, what? Like, but a double gated community, like only in LA.
That's intense. That's too intense. That's too ridiculous. Why do you need 2 gates? So did you do any fabric textile stuff while you were in LA?
Well, so then I found this workshop space where I became the sewing director and was teaching people like beginner sewing lessons. Oh, cool. So that was a blessing. And my 2 bosses were like from Georgia,
Oh, so you're East Coast.
So that was already like, thank you.
So
like,
just
say y'all for me. Will you just say y'all
Please.
And not laugh at me and say that it sounds cute, But so that was great and it kind of reignited and like I kind of left college and I was like torn up. Like I was worn out. My brain felt like it had just clean melted out my ears and I had nothing. I was empty. I was completely empty. And so for a while I just needed to just do and be.
Okay.
And then that job kind of helped me get re-excited about sewing again. Because like the fashion industry had kind of pushed the fashion department had kind of pushed me away from sewing and had tried to emphasize design.
Right.
But what I really loved was the building part, like the construction part of sewing, not necessarily like making these couture things, right? Mm-hmm. So that kind of reignited my passion. And then I made a really good friend who was the knitting teacher there. And she kind of reignited my passion in knitting. And so that kind of was my very first step into the art that I make today, which is mostly all knitted artwork. So she got me going on that path. But really, I was never interested in making knitted garments, which is ironic because I'm a fashion person.
Yeah.
But I think it's because in the South, you don't really need that many sweaters or scarves. And like, I'm a hot-blooded person. So like, I only need like one scarf.
Yeah.
Like one hat. And then also there's all these rules. If you make a sweater, you have to like pay attention to gauge and because you're building the fabric and building the garment at the same time.
Right.
So it just felt like intimidating. So I was like, okay, I want to knit and I want to make art. And I tried to go back to my painting and the inspiration wasn't there for me.
Okay.
And I think what it was it was just that blank canvas syndrome where you're there and I didn't know what I was trying to say. I didn't know what my medium was. I didn't know what my techniques were. And so I didn't have anything to get me started painting wise. But then I started playing with knitting and knitting kind of comes with its own level of constraint. Like, for example, like with this knitted piece here, if you do a row, you do one row at a time. And you can only do like one color at a time. Right. And it's like a grid. So like to design something in a grid is much more limiting than having a blank piece of paper. Okay, right? Exactly. So I started like just taking graph paper and designing stuff in graph paper. Because it's
in the cubes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because it's just like it's basically a pixelated image is what knitting is. Yeah. So that constraint kind of got me excited. And I did my first like color work design. So that just kind of a general knitting term. The color work just means any piece of art with more than one color, right? Well, I know that's kind of obvious, but so like color work. So I did my first like color work piece that someone else designed, and then I was like, maybe I can design my own. And then you one step at a time, and then you end up with really crazy stuff that people were like, how did you do that? And
yeah, that's me looking at this
well,
for
it's
the
like
YouTube
one
viewers.
step at a time.
Yeah, it's like, this is probably a good one to look at on YouTube because that's wild. I mean, she's sitting behind a piece that's insane. I'm definitely thinking like, how the fuck, like, how's that possible to do that?
And that, to me, that's like the greatest compliment.
Yeah, exactly.
I love like making people not like, I love being able to take a technique or something and transcend it to a point where like people are like, how did you even do that?
Yeah, like where did you even start?
Yeah.
But that's a different conversation, of course. But I definitely want to get into like, so briefly, how did you venture back to the West or East Coast?
Well, so, you know, LA was a really extreme place and I was pretty angry.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't handle it, and it helped me understand that I was not a big city person.
Oh, good point.
And I missed the East Coast, and so we decided to move back to Durham, and like almost as soon as we moved back, our relationship disintegrated, and because he was from somewhere else, and so yeah, so I kind of ended up back in Durham.
So you're back in... And
I was like living above my parents' garage, you know.
Oh, shit.
And, you know, finding myself as a single woman as an adult. I was loving that independence and...
Single, doing your thing.
But at the same time, like, you know, living right there next to my parents, you know, my mom would be like wanting me to come eat dinner with her and like sit on the porch and drink beer for like 3 hours. And like, so like I didn't have a lot of like really isolated time.
Free time. Yeah.
So I came back and I got a job. I kind of fell into this like sweet job as a sample maker at a denim company.
Oh, cool.
Making jeans. And that kind of really got me back into the fashion industry.
Okay,
and
good.
I studied like the pattern maker who I worked underneath. So like when you make a fashion garment, you start with a pattern maker and a sample maker. And so they'll make the flat paper patterns, and then I'll take the paper patterns and cut and sew the garment, and then you analyze it and you make changes. And then once you get the final garment, then it goes into a production.
Right.
So like the sample maker and the pattern maker are like crucial elements right at the beginning. And so the pattern maker, the company I was working at, is like this like 80-year-old German woman. And basically like, you know, like as soon as I like got a job there, I was like, I want to like just learn from you.
Yes.
You know, like you have, I mean, you're 80 years old. How much, you know, like you are a master pattern maker.
She's probably just doing the damn thing.
Yeah. So I was like, I want to learn with you. And so I was able to like kind of work my way. It was a small enough business that I was able to kind of work my way up to where I was basically working right under her.
You were just like,
and she really helped me cultivate a passion for like, you know, I kind of like, you know, I left fashion school and I had like an introduction to like every aspect, but you still only just get an introduction. Like you know, you're learning pattern making, but you only learn it for like one semester.
Yeah.
And so you kind of just get like a taste. And so I was still intimidated by the idea of making clothes.
Right.
So she kind of was helping me kind of break it down and unlock the mystery. And after I had enough with that job and I met my husband, we decided to move in together.
Okay.
And so he was the one that found the house in Julian. And so then that gave me a reason to quit my job, because it was also one of those things where I wasn't really happy there and I felt like I was treading water and I felt like I was putting my life on hold, and I knew I needed to just do it, you know. And I'm not very good at you know, like actively looking for another job while you have a job. Like I'm not that good at that stuff. So I was like, I knew I just had to quit.
Just quit and
so
start
I quit
fresh.
and we moved to Julian, and it was like the greatest thing, because I had a studio, like I had a separate building out back that I converted into a home studio. And I just like spent all my time. And then like actually what really like launched my art career was Katie, who owns the Green Bean. That's like right down the street from us. She like really casually was like, hey, do you want to have an art show? Like at the Green Bean? And I was like immediately like terrified, because I literally had no artwork. I had been making these pieces, but like you know, I didn't really know how to make a frame for them or like how to show them. Like knit work doesn't it's like not really finished until it's framed.
Yeah.
You know?
After that, it's like a kind of a roll, it's a piece of stuff.
Yeah.
So
I actually really didn't get started with these pieces until I met my husband, Adam, because literally the first night I met, I was like, he was like, oh, you can sew? He was like, I build furniture. And I was like, he was like, can you upholster? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I also make art. And he was like, oh, well, if you need frames, like I can make frames.
No
and
shit.
I was like, what? And it's because I knew that I'd have to like work with somebody to build frames for me, because I wanted something very specific. And so basically meeting him kind of started this whole like knit artwork. And then Katie gave me this opportunity and I was like, crap. I think it was like May or June, and she wanted me to show in like September, and I like didn't have any work. So I basically moved to Julian and full-time made art.
Worked, yeah.
And basically was like, oh, this is the coolest life ever.
I'll say yes.
Right? Like I just get to like hang out and make art in this home, and I was like completely isolated. I didn't have people showing up at my door wanting to hang out. There wasn't a bar down the street that I could go like hang out at. Like I literally like there's nothing around us but like a BP.
No mom on the front porch.
Yeah, it was like, you know that mom on the front porch is enticing, you know, my mom's a great person, free beer, but you know, I was like, I needed that isolation to really like channel what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. And I got something to say.
Dang right.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was huge for me. And for those of y'all who don't know the Green Bean, it's just basically an awesome spot right downtown Greensboro. Big, huge coffee shop that's open, you know, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day. Yes. So like if you're talking about visibility, so
shout out to the Green Bean.
Shout out to the Green Bean.
And
Katie Southard was a great for getting that started for me.
That's cool.
Yeah, so then I got a taste of what it was like to be a full-time artist, and I was like, I want to do this. Yes.
It's like this is exactly what I want.
I know. I was like, what I want.
And so how did you transition, and if you want to talk about your home personal stuff, and then also working at the shop, because you're at Red Canary. So how's it balance?
Shout out to Ann Troth.
Yo, shout out to Ann.
Thanks for letting us record.
The homie. I haven't met you yet, but hopefully I'll meet you soon.
I love you, Ann.
You sound badass. But so how do you balance that? So you're here and there. Obviously you're at home. You're probably working on personal projects, and here you're working, you know, whatever. So how's that work?
Well, so I had been playing with an idea for years and years and years to start my own clothing line. And I you know what? I met Ann at the opening of my Green Bean show.
Oh, what?
So perfect.
By chance. That's awesome.
Yeah. And well, we had a mutual friend that kept being like, y'all need to meet. So we met, and we kind of developed a friendship over a couple years, and we started to kind of talk about like, hey, I like clothes. Oh, me too. Oh, hey, like I own this digital fabric printing studio where I can print any fabric with any pattern of your choice. And so in my head, I'm like, that's sweet. I can't afford you just yet, but like this is cool. And then she was basically like, I can't sew and make clothes. Well, she can sew, but like she was like, I don't know how to make clothes, but I know how to make this fabric. And then I was like, well, I don't know how to make this fabric,
but I can.
And so we kind of knew, we were like, this could be something, like we could work together. And so I did my own thing. I had like my own clothing line for like a while last year, while Anna and I were still kind of mulling over ideas. And then when like the learning lessons I got from that last year really pushed me into like, you know what, I think I do want to work with a partner.
Yes. And
so we kind of committed to each other like towards the end of last year. We shook the hands, and now we're huggers. We got a hug.
Red Canary.
So we kind of like made it official at the end of last year. And right now we're like actively building our clothing line. We're called Ann and Ann because we're so stinking cute. We both have the same name. So she's got this fabulous studio downtown on Elm Street, right next to Green Bean. And basically I in the last 6 months have kind of set up her sewing studio space in the back.
Yep.
And so we've kind of created our first couple shirts together. And we did our photo shoot, and we're building our website right now.
Damn
and
right.
Hopefully we'll launch in the next couple of months, because we're still getting our logo designed and we're getting our LLC established. It's a lot of
legitimate.
It's exciting, but obviously I'd rather be like making clothes, but
yeah,
you got to establish all this stuff initially, and then you got the flow going. So we're still in this stage where we're having to make a lot of decisions and figure out a lot of stuff for the first time. But
that's good though.
Anne's been running Red Canary for almost 20 years now, so she's got like a lot of great business experience and used to own the Green Bean, and so she knows what it's like to build a business and sell a business, and so she brings a lot of knowledge to the table, and we have a lot of fun together. So
that's cool.
So right now, kind of what I'm doing is we try to spend like 2 days a week together here. Yeah. So the rest of the week, she's working on Red Canary orders. I have a part-time job with another clothing company called Gaia Conceptions.
Okay.
Which is over there behind Westerwood Tavern.
Oh, cool. We're just over there.
It's all like made-to-order organic clothing, so I do production work there, which production work's actually really cool because you get to show up, do your job, go home.
And then
no strings attached, so I get to go show up, cut out garments, sew garments, and I think about, like, wow, what kind of art am I going to make when I go home? Or like, what's my next project? Like, how am I going to troubleshoot? How I'm going to frame this piece? So I can like think about that stuff while I'm getting a paycheck. And then, and so then I kind of have like one day at home in my studio. I used to be in my home studio every day.
All the time, yeah.
But now it's kind of limited to like one day.
Here to there.
Yeah, so or if Anne's busy with something and she can't meet, then I'll be working in my studio.
Right. That's cool. And I usually meet here, right, at Red Canary.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Or at the bar at Mellow Mushroom sometimes.
Hell yeah. Like that business spot right at the bar. We can talk right here.
We have like our one spot we always sit at. So, that depends on, what we need to work on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely have to meet her because she'd be pretty interesting to talk to.
Yeah, and she was born and raised in Greensboro, so she's got a lot of roots here, and she know everybody.
Ooh-wee.
So she's got a lot of connections. And
that's very awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely want to jump into like your personal work because it's so different. Everything looks very unique. So what's your creative process when you're making kind of this, stuff, the toothbrushes and the big old lettering and all that. So where does that inspiration come from?
Well, I think that, on one level as all artists are, we kind of are absorbing we're absorbing inspiration, we're absorbing things all the time. And I'm like constantly storing ideas in my head. And so I definitely have like a love of pop art, graphic colors. I love cartoons. Like,
oh, yeah.
I'm telling you, The Simpsons, The Simpsons is like eye candy for me. Like, I don't even have to, I can put on mute and just like look at the color stories. Actually, like both of these houses that I just made, I literally was like getting color stories from The Simpsons.
From The Simpsons.
So,
oh shit.
Like, so like a really simple thing I'll do is I'll like pause the screen and I'll pick out like however many colors I see, and I like mark them down with like a marker and then I'll go, and then, and so then I'll develop a color story in that sense, So, but most of my like actual design work is, I have some sort of emotional thing I'm trying to say. So when I first started my body of work, it had a lot to do with sort of dealing with the long-term relationship that ended, the California relationship. And then meeting my now husband, then that kind of turned into these like lovey things, which that's where the toothbrushes come in, is like,
there's always two.
Right. So like when I like started like hanging out at his house a lot, I had a toothbrush and I was trying to play it cool because Adam's a very cool guy.
Yeah, I agree.
He's a musician. He's a little bit older than me. Like, he's just like cool. And so I was like, oh shit, like I gotta play this right. Like I gotta make sure I gotta be cool right back. Like I want him to like me. So I brought my toothbrush over, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna be cool. I'm gonna hide it because I don't want to be so imposing as to think I can put my toothbrush like next to his toothbrush, right?
Yeah.
Because I still, I mean, we were pretty serious from the get-go, but I was still like trying to be cool. And so I hid my toothbrush, and then, he's taller than me, so he must have seen it. I must have put it somewhere where he could see it, but I couldn't see it, really, when I think about it in hindsight. So when I came back the next time, he had found it, and he had put it next to his toothbrush.
Oh.
And I really, I was like, oh, shit, like, this guy likes me. And it said something to me, and it impacted me. And so, I know, right?
Tear.
And, I can finally tell that story without crying, so that's good.
Jacob's crying.
I've got all the feelings.
Anthony's crying behind me. He's wiped his glasses off.
but yeah, like I like the idea of a pair of toothbrushes representing like a very like mundane intimacy. Like, yeah. I mean, just a very simple everyday thing. And I love making art that I feel like can connect with everybody. I mean, you obviously can't connect with everybody, but I like the idea of like being real with my art. Like, I don't want to be like this super she like higher than you thing. Like, I want to like make connections with people.
Yeah, something down to earth.
So like, yeah, like that energy of like, I'm putting this toothbrush next to somebody else's toothbrush, and it's very simple and everyday.
Romantic, but it's very everyday, exactly. And
it's kind of like, and I also like to employ a lot of humor in my work, and so it does have sort of like a tongue-in-cheek. Literally, it has a sort of a humor to it because it's a toothbrush.
Oh, that was good.
I did not plan that.
You did. She wanted to say that the whole entire interview. She's like, I'm gonna get this toothbrush story, and I'm gonna throw this pun in there. Yeah, she had it. That was awesome.
So yeah, and so I love employing humor. I love making connections with people, and then like this series that I'm working on right now, that like the giant board piece is kind of me sort of feeling really invaded by technology and the way that it's like become everywhere in our lives and so intimate.
Yeah.
And become like a part of who we are, like literally attached to us, And so, and I've been trying to figure out like, I mean, I love technology and I hate technology. Like,
yeah.
I love watching TV, but then you watch TV for 4 hours.
You're like, fuck.
And your brain feels like it's melting. And you feel like a turd on a log, right? You feel like a real, like, turd on a log floating down a stream of nothingness, right? So, I have been kind of playing with processing how technology is affecting us. And so I also, this is a side note, but I live on an old tobacco farm, like a defunct tobacco farm that just got converted into a solar farm.
Oh, cool.
And so that's a very like, I had to watch, it was kind of a traumatic thing just because I had to watch them tear down a whole bunch of trees to put solar panels up, which I was a little like, does this make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of working forward to backward at the same time.
I know. I was like, this is North Carolina for you. Okay.
Yep.
So then I had a hatred for these solar panels because I used to have woods and like nature all around me. And now I have these solar panels, but solar panels are really great progressive thing. And I'm very much an environmentalist. So I like that too. So I started like, in trying to cope with this idea of these solar panels all around me, I started adding solar panels into my artwork. Mm-hmm. And like, I love making these little tiny houses. And for me, this is like, as an artist, to have something that you can like go back to over and over again is a great way to like always be creating something.
Yep.
So if I want to make something new and I have like no idea what I want to make, I'll just sit down and design a little tiny house, and it's like a color study that I'm working on. And then, so I've started like incorporating elements into the houses where I've put like antennas on the houses or put like propane tanks next to the houses. I mean, propane's not really, well, I guess it still needs electricity, but kind of invading with these little bits of technology, and been playing with like cell phones and stuff like this. I have this one really big piece that I haven't finished yet and I'm really excited about, but it has a lot of those technology elements in it. And
like it has a lot of those things all in one big.
Yeah, it's not quite as big as this piece. It's maybe like this big.
Yeah.
But it has like earbuds in it and solar panels, and it has a big fence in it. And I actually made the whole piece and then decided that I didn't like the yarn. And decided that I wanted to dye my own yarn, which is like a new element for my artwork.
Okay.
So I'm like in the process of dyeing it right now.
That's awesome.
But we've been having a lot of rain lately, so I kind of
can't really go outside.
And my husband banished me from doing it in the kitchen because he was like, I don't know if I like these acid dyes like on our stove. And I was like, it's my art. Like, you're stifling me.
You don't like me anymore.
And he was like, just go outside. I was like, okay.
Yo, shout out to Adam, man.
Shout out to Adam. He's the best.
Yes.
And the worst. No, just kidding.
Ooh.
No, just kidding.
Nah, she's kidding.
Sometimes.
Maybe.
But no.
That's awesome. So, got the houses and this technology, kind of incorporating a lot of things that, you know, kind of impact you. What else? Are you working on anything new? Like any new things you're making?
Well, I'm working on this piece that I'm dyeing the yarn. So I'm trying to dye my own gradient.
Okay.
And then what I'll do is I'll like, I got a grant through Arts Greensboro.
Okay.
So anybody in North Carolina can apply for a grant, and basically it's a project-based artist grant. Mm-hmm. So if like, let's say that you're like, oh, I want to make a podcast about artists, but I need 2 microphones and some rack gear, and like, you know, like you can basically submit a proposal and say, I need $1,000 to do this. And like, they give out a certain amount of money. You know, in the current administration, they might take some of that money away from us, but you know, you know, it's publicly anyway. So I was able to apply for a grant to get a knitting machine.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so I've been exploring. And so this is the first kind of big piece I did on the knitting machine. So the whole point of the knitting machine was that if I was to knit this by hand, I would like break my back. Like I would literally throw my back out.
That's if you did, because it's not by hand.
So this is done by a machine, but it's a manual machine. So it's almost like a loom. So I'm still running a carriage left and right. But instead of doing like 1 row of knitting every 30 minutes, I can do 1 row in like 3 seconds. It's just a matter of like running.
Gotcha.
So it's not electronic, like it's not plugged in. There are certain electronic elements that you can utilize, but for the most part, it's just like a different craft.
Yeah.
So this piece was all machine knitted. And it actually was, this is the width of my machine is here. So I had to knit 3 panels and then seam them together.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you can see what she's seamed it over there.
But yeah, I want to keep exploring the the opportunities I have with the knitting machine. And I've become friends with this like machine knitters guild that's in Raleigh, and I have a few like mentors that are helping me figure out my abilities with the machine. It's one of those things where it's like almost hand knitting's easier than machine knitting, but machine knitting you can get a bigger piece faster. So it's like just a new ball of wax. So I'm like learning how to work on that machine. And I think I want to do another giant crochet lace piece, like the Ain't That Some Shit.
Yes.
And I think I want it to be like more than twice as big as that.
Oh my God.
So
you did that too.
I need to get started now so I can have it done in like 5 years from now. So that whole piece, that Ain't That Some Shit was literally like a thread and a crochet hook. And
oh my God.
And you build the lace. Definitely one of my, like, a thing that informs my work is taking traditional craft techniques and then, you know, like turning them on its head, making them my own thing. And so I love looking at like cheesy craft books because you never know what kind of technique is going to pop up. So I saw some, you know, like this is called filet crochet, and I saw some, you know, quaint little thing that said, you know, bread or whatever. And I was like, what if it said something really different than bread, you know? What if I changed the scale? What if that's definitely a big part of my work. And it's so exciting to me that I was able to figure out a way to merge my love of craft and my love of art, especially when like painting wasn't doing anything for me.
Yeah.
And to be able to find, and then like, I mean, being able to find your own voice, be able to find your own process.
Yep, exactly.
Is like huge. And I think that, you know, moving out to the country helped me find that.
Yeah.
And just like making room in your life to play. And like, I think sometimes we all feel like we need to be like being so productive and getting things done
super
that
nailed in and super just serious
like,
and all that.
Yeah, like, oh, I need to be making money. I need to be, you know. And so sometimes giving yourself the time to play and try ideas, even if they totally fail, you never know what will come of that.
Yeah.
And like sometimes you can come up with a great business idea just with stuff you're playing with for yourself or, you know, whatever. So, you know, I gave myself that space to develop this kind of technique and system. And now it's like, I don't, you know, now when I want to try something new or I want to start a new piece, you know, I already have kind of my techniques that I'm using. I already have my themes and my body of work that I can pull from. And that's super valuable to keep the creative process going.
Right.
To have kind of your toolbox, so to speak.
That's awesome. So yeah, that's incredible. You're working on a lot of stuff, and that's so true about being in that new environment, how it can inspire you so differently. Mm-hmm. I think people are definitely afraid of stepping out of that comfort zone, even though it can usually is very beneficial. Mm-hmm. So that's cool that you kind of jumped over those stepping stones or whatever, and you did that, and it's worked out beautifully.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, Julian's only like an hour away from Durham, so it was like, it wasn't too hard. But I mean, I was scared to move to the country. I really was like,
I mean, that's a different beast.
Yeah, I was like, it's a bunch of rednecks.
Yeah, you get that stereotype of like, dude, hell no.
Yeah,
but but you love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's not Northern California or anything, but
but
it's you know, I love the South, even for all of its issues, and I love North Carolina. And when I moved back here from LA, I literally was like, this is where I want to be. Like, that was very clear to me. And I think anybody who wants to learn more about themselves, you go somewhere. Yeah, you move away from your comfort zone, and then you figure out what's important to you.
You just get there, you're like, fuck this.
Yeah. And so like I moved away to LA, and I didn't have a friend circle, I didn't have a community around me, I didn't have any family, and I was very lonely. Yeah. And when I moved back, it was like this huge family and community was around me, and my heart like burst, and I was like, yeah, I like being around these people.
Yeah, I'm coming. Yeah, this is it. I'm coming back.
Yeah, and like, you know, my brother started having babies, and
yeah, you gotta hang out with the homies.
Yeah, and I have a cool family, and not everybody has a great family, and
very true. Granted.
So shout out for good families.
Yeah, shout out to the family, dude. Shout out to the nephews and the nieces and all Ann's homies and stuff.
All the good ones. And Adam has a great family, and they all live right around us in Julian.
Oh, cool.
So that's fun to have good. That. But yeah, I totally was like, yeah, I'm an extroverted person. I need people, and I do not want to be in a big city.
Yes.
And another thing is, like, you know, being an artist and a designer, there's always a feeling like you should move to LA or New York or move to a big city to like really get your dream job or get your career going. I know, like, Adam is a musician. He's always like, I should be in Baltimore. I should be in Philly. You know, I should be, you know, and for me, it was always really important to be like, okay, I want to be in North Carolina, so I've got to figure out how to do what I want to do in North Carolina. And, you know, the internet's been huge.
Oh gosh, yes.
For that.
It's a treasure.
Yeah, so that's been like really good. I still, with my art, I haven't really shown much outside of North Carolina. I did have Ain't That Some Shit was able to travel up to New York for the International Contemporary Furniture Fair.
Yo.
Which is sort of a random thing, but also ICFF is like a really cool thing. Adam's furniture company that he works with, they took it up there and displayed it in part of their booth. So that was pretty cool. Then I was stalking people on Instagram, and I was like following like the hashtag ICFF, and I found like a dozen pictures of it, and I was like, yay, like this is so cool.
Their part is like, yo, that's my shit right
Yeah.
there. Ain't that some shit?
So that's like probably the furthest away any of my art's shown. But pretty much, my goal was, okay, I'm gonna like show in Greensboro, I'm gonna show in Durham, I'm gonna show in. Now I'm showing Raleigh. How do I figure out a place to show in Winston? So that's kind of been like the path I've been on. And I, like after the Green Bean show, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a full-time artist, and I'm gonna get up every morning and put my pants on and like work on art. And it's a very, very ambiguous career choice.
Yes.
And it can take a lot of forms. And so I tried things, and I completely failed at some things. I made a little headway with some things, like I got a grant, I've gotten some shows. But it was so ambiguous, and I also was like, it's all about me, I'm at home trying to express myself and be with myself and do this work with myself. And I was like getting a little crazy. So I got a part-time job in town, and that was a big help, to not feel like stressed out about money, and got a little socialization. Then meeting Ann was great. And she kind of had the same energy where she was like, I'm tired of being alone all the time. So
like, come with me, please.
Yeah. So, but I had enough alone time to like get my vision. But yeah, now I actually had this, have you ever heard of this bakery called Camino Bakery in Winston?
Yeah, of course.
Is it cool?
Yeah. That's probably one of the most known bakeries in Winston.
Really?
Right on, I think it's 4th Street. I think it's 4th Street, I can't remember, but it's Camino is like huge.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So like someone from there just reached out to me and asked if I wanted to show.
Oh, you
should hear the train?
You should. Sorry, there's a train, guys. But no, if you get an opportunity to put in Camino, I would definitely jump on that road.
Okay, cool. So that just sat in my lap like a couple days ago.
You should definitely do that.
I'm really excited because I wanted to conquer all the cities.
Yes.
So
and
I
Winston's
think
good for that too.
And I've been hearing some really cool things about Winston. So it'd be fun to get a chance to go over there. So I think, and the really cool thing is, so I was like trying to do art full time, and I just was feeling very like, how do I do this? So I kind of stepped back a little bit and was like, let me do some fashion stuff for a while, and I'll keep doing my art stuff, but I'm not going to put all this pressure on it, to be something right now.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep building, because really, like, you need like 5 years to really build like a body of work.
Oh, I definitely agree. That's
when
like really yours, like.
Yeah,
and
if you think about like your website, every time I'd finish a piece and photograph it and upload it, and be like, okay, one more piece on my website, you know?
I know exactly how that goes. It takes forever. It really does.
Yeah, and so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stop putting so much pressure on my art career to be defined as something, because I am very much like, I want to be able to define something, put it in a nice little box with a bow and have it organized and like predict my future and like stability. And so I was like, okay, I'm not getting any of this with the art career. So let me do these other things. And then like random opportunities have come my way. And then in those moments, I'll kind of revert back to like focusing on art. So like I had a show in Durham at Runaway store and gallery, and that's a great location to show. It's right downtown next to 21C. So basically I was in 21C, just like there's a wall between me and 21C
so
Hotel
right
Museum.
There.
It'd be cool to be in 21C, but have you ever been there?
I haven't been there before.
It's a museum hotel
that's
open
awesome. What?
24/7. So you can go in at 3:00 in the morning and check out the exhibits. But it's like, I mean, they have like Kahindi Wiley stuff. It's like it's not Antilles yet. Like Beverly McIver. I mean, big names.
Yeah, 24 hours a day. That's
but like
crazy.
it's right near the Pinhook, and so after
I definitely know what that is.
Yeah, after a show one night, I was like, okay, I'm really tired, but I just want to see if I can go in there at like 3:00 in the morning.
You did.
And yeah, and so it's like they have 2 stories of artwork, and you can just go in. It is so cool. It is so not stuff that we have in North Carolina, but it's in North Carolina.
It's here.
It's in my hometown. But yeah, they have like really cool stuff. So it's more like mid to established artist work.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool that they have a place to showcase their work.
And there's like, they have a restaurant there, and there's a ton of art in the restaurant. I highly recommend for you to stop, and it's free, so you can stop in anytime.
Right.
And you just walk in like you know what you're doing, even if you don't. You just walk in and then you figure it out. You're like, yeah.
And they're like,
yeah. They're like, oh, they know they're doing.
Yeah, this is cool.
That was totally what I did. I was like,
own this building.
I was like, my mom told me I could just go in here, and I was like, I'm just gonna pretend like I just fake it till you make it. Like,
oh, that's the real secret.
If you need a life lesson on how to be an artist, you fake it till you make it.
That's a real secret. No, that's awesome. So throughout your journey, you've had a shit ton of accomplishments. So I was gonna ask you that specifically, but you've told me so much. I'm like, yeah, she's done a lot. That's incredible.
Oh, thanks.
And it's cool that you've been all over. You've been in LA, you've been in Georgia, and I think a lot of people have those dreams of like the big city of like, oh, it's gonna be great, blah blah blah. But it's cool that you were just like, nah, not really, not for me. And you're doing it. You're in a rural area, and you're still like living your dream and doing your shit. So thanks. You don't have to be in a big city to do that. Yeah, so that's good that you told the listeners that. I'm happy you did that.
Do what you want and figure out how to make it work.
Do it where you want.
Yeah, do it where you want.
So just kind of to bring this down, what advice do you have, I guess, to those people listening, from established artists to up and comings, to people who are thinking about doing it, who are maybe a little bit scared to jump into the art industry? What would you tell those guys?
Well, I would definitely like reiterate one thing I said earlier, which is like make time to play and explore, and definitely try to find your toolbox. And like, I was thinking, like I love like these little tiny houses that I knit. Having these things that you can kind of go to again and again. I mean, like I'll stop knitting these tiny houses when I don't want to do them anymore. Yeah. But like having something that you can kind of jump into. So like if you have like if you're not inspired and you have like some creative blockage, to have something like, okay, well, I'm just going to knit a pair of toothbrushes. I'm just going to knit another pair of toothbrushes. I've already made this, but I'm going to do it in a new color palette.
Yeah, it's different.
And like, just like keeping yourself making, even if it's not anything new, just having something that you can go back to and keep refreshing yourself, like playing with different colors or, whatever your bread and butter is. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about, I thought about this at like 3:00 in the morning when I couldn't sleep. Is like one of the biggest lessons that I'm still learning is like pricing your artwork.
Oh my gosh, that's always the hardest
part. First of all, everyone hates it. Yes. So don't think that you're alone. But, don't be afraid to sell your artwork, first of all. You're not going to belittle yourself by trying to sell your artwork. Like, I think some people think you take away this sanctity of art by putting a price tag on it. False. But like, let's be real. Like, if I didn't sell my artwork, I would have no room in my house to live, because there'd be like, where would this go, right?
Exactly.
So like, for me, from a practical standpoint, like I need to sell my artwork so that I can keep making more, and then it gives you the funds to
make more and expand.
And then just having the justification that someone likes what you're doing is huge.
Yeah.
So like, what I would say is like, when you're pricing your artwork, do not sell yourself short. If you sell yourself short, you're kind of belittling the whole art community. And then also something that I'm very prone to doing is like prejudging my customers and thinking, oh, they can't afford this.
Right.
Like, oh, if I put $1,000 price tag on this, like I know that my friends can't afford that. Like, oh, like they're gonna hate me. And like you don't judge your customers.
Yeah, exactly.
Or your clients.
That's
like,
when you lose a lot of money if you do that.
Yeah. It's just like, so don't assume what people can and can't afford. People can make those decisions for themselves.
Right.
I'm not answering that. And like, yeah, just don't sell yourself short, and really think about why you're making art and selling art. And if you just are bored at home and need a hobby, then that's, then maybe your work is priced a little more affordably. But if you want to try to make a career out of this, you really need to think about, how long is this taking me to make it? How much money do I want to make annually? Okay, if I want to make $50,000 a year, then how much do I need to make a day to make $50,000? Exactly. And so then what's my hourly rate? And then, I mean, as much as I hate keeping track of my time.
Yeah, but you should.
It's just smart. And then being able to say, okay, well, if this piece is this many square footage or, square inches, and it took me this much time, then maybe I can kind of estimate
how much this
might be. Because like, and then the other thing too is like, I couldn't afford to buy this piece. so don't look at yourself and what you can afford when you price stuff.
I'm not.
I mean,
it's for them, not for you.
Yeah,
so.
like I made this piece. I put it in the Runaway show at the end of last year, and it was basically 16 tiny toothbrushes. And I put them together so it made like one big image, but I was like, oh, this is so smart. I'm going to make this giant image, but it can be sold off individually, and they'll all be like under $100. Yeah. And like, I'll be able to, kind of appeal to the middle class community that's here.
Right.
And then my husband and my mother were both like, you should put a price on all of them. And I was like, what?
Wait, the whole image?
Yeah, on all 16 pieces. They were like 16 tiny pieces that I'd collaged together on the wall.
Damn.
And they were like, you should put one price on it. And I was like, y'all crazy. Nobody's going to want 16 toothbrushes, right? And someone bought it.
You put one price on it.
And someone bought the whole thing.
See? Look.
And I belittled the community and was like, oh, nobody's going to buy this. And because I had a support system that said, no, yeah, like...
No, you can't.
Just try it. Like, this is cool. Like, just do it. And so that's been like one of my biggest accomplishments was like, that was awesome. The biggest piece I'd ever sold. And I didn't have to figure out what to do with 16 toothbrushes after the show came down.
That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So,
see, that's cool. I'm definitely glad you brought that up because that's probably a roadblock a lot of people go into, and people that ask me or ask, just, they don't know and they're scared. And it's just like,
right, because you're prejudging. Yeah. You're thinking about what you can afford. Don't think about that.
Now as an artist, not as like becoming, because you
and don't listen to, like your brother who's a plumber that
we should charge this for.
Yeah, like that. My brother one time got mad at me about how expensive I had priced these one pieces, and he was like complaining about how expensive they were, and it kind of hurt my feelings. And then I was like, wait. He's just mad because he wants to own these and he can't afford them.
Yep.
But he was making me feel like I was like charging too much. And so I was like, don't listen to those people. Stick with yourself. And like, I have a friend that works at an art gallery, and I consulted her about like, how should I price? And, I've, done research, and definitely don't undersell yourself, because then you'll belittle all the rest of us too. So.
Exactly. You need to make sure you don't sell yourself short, like you said. And that's awesome that there's someone out there would buy it. Because I think everyone's been at that point where you go to like a gallery and it's like, why is this $1,000? And to your point, it's like, someone's going to buy it,
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah. If it means that much to somebody, like,
it's going to connect with someone.
Yeah. And then it's also really good to understand where your art sells. Like I've sold really well in Durham. And so I'm going to keep pursuing opportunities in Durham. Like, have you ever heard of the Carrick in Durham?
I don't think so.
That's it. Shout out to the Carrick.
Shout out.
The Carrick is a zero commission art space. You can apply for a show for free.
What?
And then you can sell all your artwork, and they won't take any money from the sales.
Oh shit!
Which is
fucking
unheard of. It's a nonprofit. The biggest like bummer is that the shows are 2 weeks at a time. So it means a lot of people get to show, but it's not a very long amount of time.
Yeah.
But I had a show there. I sold really well. I sold enough that I was able to then kind of choose how much I wanted to then donate to the Carrick, because I was like,
yeah, like here,
this is so cool that you gave me this opportunity.
Yes.
And so like the Carrick is a really great place for like beginner artists. If you're looking for a place, even established artists, like I think like Heather Gordon's sort of like a art darling right now, and she had her like thesis show there. So like it's just I highly recommend that.
Awesome.
The Carrick. So.
Well, dude, this was great. There's so much information.
I haven't run out of breath yet.
Hopefully the listeners have found some value out of that, because you definitely hit a lot of solid points I think a lot of people definitely need to hear.
Cool.
So yeah, again, this is Ann Tilley. She is a textile artist here in Greensboro, and Julian had at the Red Canary. Maybe you see her in the window one day walking down Elm Street in Greensboro. If you're here,
come say hey.
Come say hey. But yes, buy her work, and her website is...
So my main name is Ann Tilley Handmade, and that kind of covers all my textile art and my sewing freelance work. So it's AnnTilleyHandmade.com.
Awesome.
And that's Ann without an E.
Yes.
And also my Instagram is Ann Tilley Handmade. And then my new clothing line that's going to be launching soon is going to be AnnandAnn.com.
Damn right.
And it's one Ann without an E and one Ann with an E.
Awesome.
So Ann and Ann. And it's going to be some sick clothes, brah.
Yes, brah. Cool. So,
oh, and we have an Instagram too. It's Ann and Ann love you. So, because we do. We
enough.
We love you.
We're going to put this all in the description.
Okay, cool.
Places on podcast app and the YouTube. But obviously, this is probably definitely one you definitely want to watch on YouTube because there's a lot of visuals. And you can see Ann. She's okay. Not really.
I took a shower for you guys.
And she's wearing some funky socks.
Maybe. I knit these.
Handmade socks. She made some handmade socks. Go figure. And handmade.
Huh?
Is that a tribute to Miss Purple?
This is blue.
Jacob is blind.
These were so boring to make. I don't know if I can do another pair of socks. There was just one color. I was like, ugh.
I'm gonna request some socks.
I need this kind of socks.
That would be awesome.
That's my kind of enthusiasm.
But yes, thanks for listening. This is awesome.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having
Ann,
me.
for inviting us to
and
your
now we're
space.
gonna eat pizza.
We're definitely eating free pizza from Sticks. Shout out to Sticks and
Shout
Stones.
out to Sticks and Stones.
Greensboro royalty.
I mentioned Domino's Pizza, and my husband was like, "Hell no."
Yeah, why would you do that?
Well, it's
no offense,
it's
Domino's.
It's right by my house. So like on my way into town, I was like, "Oh, it'd be really easy."
Adam
and he was like, "Who are you?"
Go to Sticks.
Go to Sticks.
Shout out to Adam for knowing the better.
Yeah, shout out to Adam. Adam almost fucked us over with some Domino's and the Sticks.
I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
Nah,
Sticks is too good. Got to support local independent.
Yes, but no. Thank you for the pizza. If you like what you heard, please rate us on the podcast app and like us on YouTube.
And go back and listen to all the other ones too, because there's some really great podcasts.
There were some insane podcasts, insane people around us.
That guy Tommy was pretty hilarious.
Yo,
I like
shout
him.
out to Tommy because he gets very passionate about
his talking about his stepdad. Oh my God.
Oh, dude! I wish I could remember that dude's name. Dave? Was it Dave?
He was like, Dave, if you're listening to this.
Shout out to Dave again because you're hilarious. But no, thank you for listening. And this is the end of this one and stuff. La la.
I didn't even realize there was one over there.
Cool. Got it.